Arriving later this year on the 5th of September from Reef Entertainment is a new 2D video game based on Terminator 2 called No Fate, developed by Bitmap Bureau, who have produced a number of modern retro titles such as Xenocrisis and Final Vendetta. I had the opportunity to talk to Mike Tucker, the design director, and Kwang Nguyen, the programmer and designer from the studio, about the development of the game, and expanded on what to expect from it and their thoughts on the old Terminator 2 games from the 90s. The first question, really, about all this is, how did this project come about?
It started probably 3 or 4 years ago. Not too long after we'd made a game called Battle Axe. We got approached by Reef Entertainment. Specifically, I think it was Will from Reef. And yeah, they really loved what we did with Battle Axe. But yeah, they approached the artist and designer, Henk Nieborg, who's our art director these days. They wanted to collaborate with him on a licensed title. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what it is, but that game didn't happen. So they offered us Terminator 2, and yeah, we just couldn't say no. I mean, it's yeah, we're of that age where yeah, we grew up with Terminator 2. It was had such a huge cultural impact, and yeah, it felt like there had never been a truly great Terminator 2 game, so it felt like a hole, a hole that we had to fill. So yeah, it was good timing, and yeah, right up our alley as well, because they specifically wanted something that was 2D, pixel art, and arcade orientated. So yeah, that's what we're all about. So
was there a lot of flexibility with the license? Because it's Studio Canal who own Terminator 2, were they sort of said you can't do this, or because I know in some of the pics, like you've got the likeness for Linda Hamilton and the T-1000, but you have Arnold maybe slightly out of the equation in terms of licensing?
Yeah, I think that's purely financial, really. So yeah, we had Robert Patrick, Linda Hamilton, and Ed Furlong's likenesses, and also, sorry, Miles, the guy who plays Miles Dyson. I think that happened in the end as well.
Oh, good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, for you and Kwang, which Terminator 2 games back in the 90s did you kind of enjoy for what they were? Because we all know that Ocean Software and Midway had done their ports conversions. Well. Yeah, they'd done their kind of versions. And despite the hype, none of them really delivered. But was there any particular ones that kind of stood out for you that you quite enjoyed? Or were you both like, no, these suck?
We're at the age where the games you got were few and far between. You save up your pocket money and you maybe got one game every 6 months, maybe a year or something like that. So even though I had an Atari ST and Terminator 2 on that, the game was terrible, but you endured it and you enjoyed it for what it was, and you just try to glean as much as you can from it. Yeah, it wasn't a great game, but I played many hours of that game just trying to recreate the movie, I guess. And then obviously there's Terminator 2 in the arcades, the light gun shooting game. And yeah, whenever we saw that in the arcades, we would pile like 20p's into that and try and play as much of that as possible. Yeah, it's one of those games where, because it's in the arcades, it's there to take your money. So, asking your parents for your 20p's and trying to make them last as long as possible. You generally wouldn't get past level 1, maybe level 2. And if by then you run out of money, so you won't see much more than that. But you'd enjoy it as it went along.
But yeah, that was probably the best of the bunch. I played one or two of the other Terminator games. Yeah, based on the original Terminator. But Terminator 2 on the Mega Drive and SNES were quite painful as well, especially the driving sections where you're on the bike in that weird isometric perspective. Yeah, some very dodgy combat. Yeah, it's a tricky game to. A tricky movie to convert into a game, though, for sure. So I can appreciate why people struggled with it, and yeah, especially given the time and budget constraints they were under back then, and memory technical constraints. They quite often had to bash these games out in a few months. And some of the ports were just a few weeks. So Yeah, it's totally understandable how some of these titles were a bit rushed.
You mentioned there about the sort of challenge of taking a movie and put it into a video game. Now, as we saw throughout that decade, and even today, we still see very well, not as much as we used to, like the sort of challenge of taking a film and making the story work within a sort of gameplay format. So for you two, I mean, you'd seen the games in the past. You think, okay, what can we do to sort of give people a unique experience or really capture the essence of the film? What was the sort of challenges you faced of taking that plot of Terminator 2 and stretching it out to a bunch of levels?
Yeah, so when you're taking something from one medium, so movie and film, TV and stuff like that, it's so linear. So you sit there and you're told a story as you go through it. And obviously, games being an interactive medium require some sort of agency in the game, and that is where you have to take the scenes from the movie and see where you can glean some sort of gameplay from it, and give you some sort of agency. It's tough because you're thinking you don't want to stray too far from the source material, but you don't want it to be one long cutscene basically. So you've got to find the gameplay within the material that you're given.
Yeah, and take a few liberties as well here and there.
Because to me, when I saw it when it was released, it blew everyone's mind when I saw the trailer. Anyone my age, middle-aged men, who grew up with Terminator 2, like, oh my god, there's a 2D version of Terminator coming out. Amazing, because it looked like really like the Mega CD version of the Terminator, but now it's the T2 version, but kind of jazzed up. Well, essentially, what it kind of would look like it was on like a Sega Saturn or PlayStation in 2D sprites, right? So, in terms of what is being released, in terms of like, you can kind of clearly see elements of the movie, like the opening, and you've got like Sarah kind of escaping from the mental hospital, and you've got the chase with the T1000,
the Storm Drain chase.
Yeah, exactly. Which also kind of feels like, the old developers of the old games did try and capture that, like for the Game Boy, or kind of look kind of like that, or like the Amiga versions. And because Reef had done Terminator Resistance, which was a brilliant game, and it also deployed the idea of multiple endings. Now with this, obviously, there's so much you can't divulge because don't want to spoil the game, but there's a process that's kind of advertised that there is multiple endings to this kind of Terminator 2 game.
Yeah, that's right. There's a few key moments where you can make a decision that affects the outcome of life on Earth, I suppose, and how the battle with Skynet plays out. So you do have the canon route in there, and that's you have to go through that route actually to open up the other routes. It just encourages repeat play, and it will give players a reward for playing through the game again and trying out the different choices.
Does the player essentially kind of interact with characters in the game, or is it just part of the cutscene where there will be something that will trigger the next section that would essentially lead you on a different path?
Yeah, that's it. So you'll make a choice when talking to certain characters, and that will open up different levels, and then if you can make your way through those levels, then you'll get a different ending. For
the back end of the game, the programming side, the engine, is this kind of based on your existing kind of engine you've used for the previous games in your catalogue you've put out, or is it something new you've put together?
It's essentially based on our previous titles, such as Final Vendetta, Battle-Axe, Xenocrisis. So it meant we had a lot of the groundwork done already in terms of just putting sprites on the screen and doing parallax layers and so on. But it also means that we can then quite easily take that code base and get the game running on retro systems, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but you might be able to glean from our previous experience which platforms we might be bringing the game to.
Oh, Philips CDI.
We do get a few requests for that. But,
bring on a 3DO port.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Quang would like that.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them, yeah. So, obviously from the trailer and some of the behind-the-scenes material you've put out, with its style of gameplay, we can see elements of other games you've been inspired by. My first glance, there was a bit of Contra, there's a bit of Metal Slug in there with the boss battles. Was there anything else you kind of pulled from, or what I kind of guessed is kind of correct?
I'll say we've taken ideas from all those games from the arcades and consoles that we grew up playing, all the great running guns, and even walking shoots as well. So you got stuff like Rolling Thunder and Shinobi and Sunset Riders and things like that. Just you get that feel from moving along and shooting. So yeah, we've just drawn from our experience in video games. I know Mike has a huge wealth of experience in playing games, and myself as well. So yeah. So you take the best bits and you take that as an inspiration, and you make them something wonderful from that.
So, yeah, I think Elevator Action Returns was another big one as well for us.
Good choice. I mean, I've been playing that a lot recently, bizarrely,
Yeah, superb. Real hidden gem, as they say. Great soundtrack. But yeah, we wanted that kind of feel to it. So it was slightly moving away from Rolling Thunder, which was a little bit more comical, touch more sort of gritty and realistic.
Obviously, the Terminator is best known for many for its amazing music by Brad Fiedel. Obviously, the games of the past, they'd deploy some of it they couldn't do some licensing. So are you guys, of course, most of these Terminator Resistance obviously had the theme in it. I presume you guys are going to have the opportunity to have the Terminator music in it and sort of maybe remix it in some way for this new game?
Yeah, absolutely. Our musician, actually, Lee Mintram, he's got a uncanny ability to recreate any piece of music. So he was able to listen to the Terminator 2 theme, and he knew straight away it was composed on a Fairlight CMI. So he found the soft synth equivalent.
Nice. And
yeah, back in the day, a Fairlight CMI was probably like $1 million or something. Now you can get it as a 50 quid BST. It's crazy. But he was able to recreate all of those very distinctive drone sounds, the percussions, straight from the soundtrack. He's done an amazing job. So he's also used that as the inspiration for other tracks as well.
What has been some of the biggest hurdles for you, Kwang, in sort of working on this game? Is it because it's a license, it's made a bit more of a challenge for you because you can't get too creative with things, maybe?
I think for me, I came onto the project much later, and obviously the guys started before I did, about a year ago from now, and a lot of the assets and stuff had already been built. Anything I wanted to add to the game or change, we had to make sure there wasn't too much of a budget in terms of graphics and sound and things like that changing. So I had to work with the assets that we have. Although Mike was great in terms of pushing through some of the things that I wanted to do.
Well, I had no choice, really.
Yeah,
he's proper pushy, but yeah, it's. I think it's horrible as a programmer when you hand your game over to someone else and they just rip it apart and say, right, you've got to change this, and this, and that's what he did. And
you've ruined it, Kwang. What's going on?
Oh no, he's made it a much better experience. But it's just painful, like undoing everything you've done, and or there'll be some horrible bug which has been in the game for months, and he will say, right, yeah, you've really got to sort this out. And he was being a great motivator on that front. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a number of scenes in the movie that weren't represented yet in the game. I was like, no, we really need to have these scenes in. Probably even more scenes that I want put in, but we're pretty much out of time. So, it's one of those things where you could polish it forever, you could add things forever, and it could take forever, but you need to get the game out there at some point. So it's difficult in terms of just time and budget, I guess.
Sure. Was there some parts of the game you think, I'd love that to be a stage or level in the game, but we can't make it work, so it's got to be a cutscene?
Yeah, that happened on 2 or 3 occasions. I think the end of the freeway chase, there's that incredible section where the T-800 climbs out of the farmer's truck and onto the bonnet of the tanker and pummels the T-1000 with I think might be an M16, but
oh yeah, that moment's incredible. Yeah,
just amazing. Yeah. And yeah, it's not the sort of thing you can really convert into gameplay because, other than maybe a quick time event or something. But so I think that's a good example where, we just have to say it has to be in the game. So yeah, let's do it as a sprite cutscene. So yeah, there were a few decisions like that. But I think we've done well in terms of getting those key moments in. And sometimes it's meant the animators have had spend weeks on one animation spanning hundreds of frames, and you'll see it in the game for maybe 5 seconds. A lot of people will skip it as well, which is heartbreaking. But you just have to. You've got to take it on the chin, I just hope that there will be people who appreciate us going to those efforts.
Have you already thought down the line, for DLC for the game, where you get to, I don't know, do Terminator 2 3D, the ride where you go destroy Skynet? You know what I mean? The big pyramid thing, in the 3D ride.
There are a few nods to that, I think, in the game.
Oh, nice! Someone's done their homework.
Yeah, I had a good look at that. It's kind of weird though, because John Connor's suddenly about as tall as Arnie, isn't he? And and I think his voice broke as well, and all sorts. So it's kind of weird watching that back. But yeah, pretty cool experience. DLC. I guess we'll see how it goes. Yeah, we're already on to other projects. So really busy, and we also have to look at ports for T2 as well. So
was there a point where you guys were making this thinking, oh, we'd be great to do the Terminator? That's the first one, because obviously Dave Perry back in the day done a great job with Virgin for the Mega Drive one, which was insanely short. You could complete it in about 10 minutes. You could taking that aspect, just playing as Carl Reese, kind of going back through the Terminator with your team's fantastic pixel art graphics.
I think we were talking about this the other day, and weren't we, Quang, and saying that making another Terminator game could be more tricky because you just have one opponent in the whole game. And I know on the Mega CD version, they took some liberties with punks and dogs, and actually the Future War sections are pretty cool.
They were pretty cool.
But it's probably more. I'd say that's more of a challenge in some ways. I know Alien Isolation had just one enemy, and they did a great job of extrapolating enough tension and gameplay and atmosphere out of that.
This is kind of a rarity, what you guys have done, because no one expected anyone to do. I mean, when it comes to Terminator, it's always going to be a first-person shooter. That's generally what it is. It's the easiest kind of thing to do, and people still love it. It's the most popular type of game, I think, really. To go back and revisit Terminator 2 with a 2D sprite game, it's very unique. It's a
bit left field, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it is. Well, yeah. I think younger people would be like, why are they doing this? But I think for a certain generation, and love retro stuff, this is just pure gold for me. Because as I said, I think before recording, I was just gobsmacked how this has come about, and I can't wait to play it. I mean, the presentation of it looks great. You've really captured the essence of the film from what I've seen, from those behind-the-scenes stuff you've put out. It just looks like you've done a superb job, which is always a challenge, I think, for many developers back in the day, was to really capture the essence of a film.
Yeah, it's really tricky, and a lot of them were sort of working off script, really. They had a vague idea of what the film was about. I think that might have been the case with RoboCop as well. RoboCop, I think, went into production without... I think they might have read the script but not seen the film.
Well, RoboCop was a weird one, because I think because Ocean got the license and sub-licensed it to Data East, who then had more access than them. Ocean said, well, we'll just copy what Data East had done, just port the arcade, and then add our own little bits. And other people I spoke to at Ocean Software, like Bill Harbison, you get some press kit photos, lobby cards, and the script. So that's all you got to work on for RoboCop 3, and just oh, okay, So they didn't really know what it looked like until, in the case of T2 for the Amiga, those guys, they had no idea what it looked like till they saw the trailer in the cinema. Oh, that's what it looks like, right?
Yeah. Explains a lot, doesn't it? Will, like I said earlier, we've got Will on our side who just ingested every bit of Terminator lore and knowledge, and he's made sure that we've kept everything on track. And I think we've done a good job in bringing the T2 experience to a 2D pixel art game. And like you said, an FPS would be the obvious choice, but with this particular license, we were restricted to 2D. Had to remain 2D. So I don't think we could even have any sort of Operation Wolf style sections. We couldn't even do a 2D sort of into the screen shooter. So But yeah, sometimes those kind of restrictions are beneficial, I think.
When you're dealing with Terminator 2 as a license, going with pixel art would make it of that era, rather than going for a modern. Now, if you're looking at the Terminator license as a whole, any new games having them in 3D makes sense because you can expand the universe, you can go on your own story and stuff. But because we're following the movie Terminator 2 so closely, I think to do it justice, it has to be of that era and pixel art. The quality of the pixel art we've got is incredible. As you said, it's more sort of 32-bit Sega Saturn sort of Neo Geo sort of era. Yeah, I think to do it justice, having a 2D pixel art game is the right thing to do.
Because you're dealing with nostalgia. People have a lot of love for Terminator franchise, in particular T2, and then you're tackling it with a 2D sprite game. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. There's always space for a 2D version, and that sort of pick up and play is very popular, and it also appeals to younger people now because they're getting more into retro stuff and seeing something that's very familiar like Terminator and going, oh, I can play this straight away, not have to go through this massive manual or something, or like trying to figure out the controls. You've got to go through a mad tutorial. I'm sure you've got a tutorial in the game, right?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Jump and shoot. so you got
pretty much.
Regarding tutorials, we've gone for very much the arcade approach where playing the game is the tutorial. So you have to layer that in slowly and carefully, so you don't so the player doesn't feel like their hand's been held, but at the same time they work out what they need to do, and that's all done through the gameplay. That was a big challenge, I guess, making any type of arcade game.
All my friends were super hyped when they saw the trailer, so
Right.
So yeah, I think it's going to go down well with, nerdy guys like me who are, over 40.
Yeah, I'm one of them as well.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click the like button and hit the bell to be notified of my latest reviews. Big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain access to exclusive videos and take part in Q&As, follow the link below.